Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Custom Spotlight. We're in a different location than usual. That's because the junction that you're used to seeing in these videos, like the double-tracked station area, which is actually over to this side of the screen where it should be, is not there anymore because I'm redesigning the layout for Season 2. So even what you see right here isn't guaranteed to be permanent. This is just something I threw together specifically so I can keep doing custom spotlights during this update period. And today's model, you saw him at the end of customs, at the end of season 1. You saw him briefly there. You're gonna see him very soon in a few new unboxing videos I have on the way. We're presenting the one and only Jacob Mark II. And yes, this is the same engine that I previously had. So he's just been heavily updated. However, before we get to that, let's just talk about a few brief things in his consist. So, first we have this little truck. The only things this was just like, I think this was like a Sesame Street wooden railway toy or something that I just painted in gray, put the little lines on, threw a little white patch on the front. This will eventually be a face, and I threw a little tarp on the top of him. It doesn't look that good, but eventually I'll probably improve him. Here's Scruffy. Yeah, he doesn't connect to the Jacob's magnets. In case you were curious, Jacob's magnets are backwards, so he connects to the Thomas toys all topsy-turvy. So, however, on the positive side, at least the brake fan is actually faces the correct way. We'll talk about that in a second. Basically, all I did to this wooden Scruffy is I just weathered it to hell. I just weathered it to heck. Like, literally all I did. Just threw weathering on top of Scruffy, and here we are. Scruffy. And here's the brake fan. Originally I was just going to make this Toad, but I actually have a really interesting idea. So, people in the comments, come up with a name for this guy. People in the comments, tell me what you think this guy's name should be. Give me a name and I'll go through the ideas, and whichever one I like best will end up being the name of this brake fan. So, yeah. You guys don't care about the consist. You want to see the train at the front of the consist. Because, boy howdy, has some updates been done to Jacob. Let me tell you. So, in a previous video, I mentioned that the only updates that I wasn't going to be doing updates to him. That was all a cover-up. I needed you guys to not be aware of the fact that I did have updates planned for this guy. So, what have I done? Well, obviously you can see what I've done. I've painted him in a Northwestern blue. My goal with this was to make it the same kind of livery that the Northwestern Railway uses for its other engines. Mainly Thomas, and if I'm to bring him up, Gordon. The consist just rolled back, but whatever. As you can see, I did my absolute best to try and mimic Northwestern Blue. most Northwestern Blue engines have blue wheels, so I retained that. Red running boards, he has that. White foot plates, retained. Black smoke boxes, again retained. I gave Thomas a copper chimney cap. I actually probably should have mentioned that. I want to give one to Jacob, but I'm not sure. And the paint scheme is the same too. The idea here was Northwestern Blue is this bright shade of blue, which came from my paint pen, with the red lining, just like real Northwestern Blue. Now, I know the numbers are not accurate to how Northwestern Railway does their numbering, but this is my model. I wanted to make it simple. Also, I can't exactly draw that small. The only main difference I did is that I gave Jacob a gold dome. Like it's supposed to look like brass. The idea for a brass dome, if I'm looking around me. Oh, there we go. Oh, okay. The idea for a brass dome came from James, who also has a brass dome. So it's kind of a weird mix of Northwestern Blue and Northwestern Red. But yeah, it's supposed to be Northwestern Blue. Also, I don't know if you can tell, but I repainted this face completely. Originally it was a blank, like a sort of sun-faded color. But then I repainted it in this white. Repainted the whole face, as you can tell. And I painted in the mouth as well. One of the most drastic things I've done to this model, however, is the cap. Originally, I could potentially try and put in a clip from my previous video on him, like somewhere in here. So I'll try and see what I can do in terms of putting like a clip on screen. Actually, probably best not to. Like, you guys know what Jacob looks like, I'd assume. He was like, his model didn't have a bunker. Like, his cab extended all the way out here, like from like here to here. So I cut through the wood to try and shorten his cab. I wanted him to actually have a coal bunker. So I took a blade, cut through right there to remove some of the cab, and then I took some sanding paper and sanded out this bit so it's nice and smooth. And now Jacob has a coal bunker. Also, I rounded out I used sanding paper to round out the top of the cab, because originally it was just a straight flat line, but I made it more curvy, if you can see that. I also there was like a bunch of buildup and like gunk in between the face, so I finally decided to just pull the face off. And well, yeah, it was disgusting under there, but I made it so it's just held on by some blue tack. I think it's held on by blue tack. Hold on. So yeah, it is just held on by blue tack. Here's the face right here. You know what? I'll show this here. This is the perfect time to show this. even though I have done all these updates to Jacob, there was still the underlying urge to do something drastic here. And of course, I can't find the freaking chassis block for the model I'm talking about, but... oh, here it is. Here it is. Hold on. I'm setting this up off camera. Okay. Now, this is something I've recently thought about. This is my body shell for a potential Jacob Mark III. As you can tell, this one is a Tomy model. One thing I thought about recently when I was working on Season 1 is it was kind of inefficient for all the models I use in my video to be Tomy engines. And yet my main primary model I use for my videos was a wooden train. And even though I've said in the past that I have no plans to retire this model specifically, that ever-lying nerve in me is telling me maybe it's time to just make a change. Not to mention, like, I had a spare Percy lying around. I had already painted it in Northwestern blue, expecting to just make a blue Percy. And then the thought occurred to me, why not make this Jacob's new body? So, real quick, I'll just show off this as well. The face does fit, and this is what he would look like if I did decide to do that. So again, I'm going to leave this to a comment poll. Should I make Jacob this model, or should I retain consistency and keep him as the wooden train? Because I could see it either way. On one hand, I'm sentimental towards the wooden engine, but on the other hand, I think this just looks so much better. So I'm gonna leave it to you guys. You guys get to decide. Do I use this model in my future videos, or do I retain consistency and keep him a wooden train? That's going to be your task to decide. Because if you end up choosing this model, then I'll just sand down the back part of the face, put it on flesh, and we'll just continue with this. But if you decide that this model right here, the one I've been using, is better, then I'll just make this into a blue Percy. Or maybe completely redo it. I don't know. So yeah, this is up to you. I'm gonna let you guys decide. Does Jacob turn into this, or does Jacob stay as the wooden train? Because, like I said, I could see it either way. I think maybe it might be time for a change. Hence why I did all this. Hence why I went to the effort of painting that model up there and making this model in general. So it is time for a change. I'm not going to go back to how he was before, but it's just your decision whether or not I use the wooden model or the motor or the Trackmaster model. FYI though, it doesn't have the motor right now. I would like to maybe make him a motorized chassis at some point, but as of right now, he's just a freewheeler. I really just wanted him to be this so he fits in scale better with the other engines, because all my engines are motorized engines, and then I have the one wooden toy, which is supposed to represent me. So, yeah, do I use this model in my future videos, or the wooden one? You guys can decide that. So, yeah, I think with all that said, I think I've basically exhausted everything I can say about Jacob. I'll probably confirm in my next update video what you guys said you wanted. So, I'll confirm in my next update video which of these two models will be my primary Jacob. So, yeah, with all that said, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peep, peep.